Be Frankie.
Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy BDELL. If you're new to this channel, hit that like button, hit that share button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. Today we're going to be talking about how the Ethereal cosmic mother, the Black Sun, is the fingerprint of the universe that controls the dualistic paradox under the law of polarity. Now, as I was telling you before, the Black Sun is the supersonic battery, the planet Earth, that's going to cause the magnetic pole shift in the year of the cosmic serpent in solar cycle 25. So all this works in conjunction scientifically, esoterically, and metaphysically when it comes to Tahuti, Thoth, or Melchizedek, right? We finna break it all down today because we in that time, everything is shifting. So this video is going to give you a lot of clarity about what's going on and what's taking place on the planet currently. Because what happens in the physical world happens in the spiritual first, right? So first we're going to start out about what the Black Sun is. We're going to give a lot of clarity to it. See, the Black Sun is basically an extraction process that works in conjunction with the etheric network that creates a plasma vortex energy all over the planet. And it's activated by way of the neutrinos that creates the power supply all over the planet. So what you're looking at is it's an energy extraction that basically dematerializes the liquid crystal polarization of the subatomic particles that basically subjugates the energy of humans on the planet. It basically eradicates the energy extraction matrix. It eradicates the plasma waters, right? So you're looking at a reverse of frequency because it coincides with the polarity consciousness to where you seek oneness, and that oneness is activated by way of the Black Sun, which is a electromagnetic energy that is transduced from the star Polaris, right? Because this also coincides with the precessional circle of the equinox, right? Now, one thing you got to understand is that the Black Sun is basically getting an extraction of energy from the Ursa Major star constellation that's basically in alignment with the Big Dipper star constellation and the star Polaris, because it's basically the source of the God consciousness. And the reason that is because it's the source, because that was basically the inception point of how the planet was going through a revitalization process, right? Because the planet was created by the carbonated 6 ether energy of 666, 6 electrons, 6 protons, 6 neutrons. That was basically the epitome of creation. Now you have the 999 activation of 9 ether energy is basically the epitome of destruction, meaning that the same energy that created the planet is going to eradicate the planet by way of calamities, by way of desolation, by way of the great purification. All these things have to come to pass because it's activated by the true Lord, who is Melchizedek, who is Tahuti, who is Thoth, who is actually acclimated to the right brain of the olfactory nerve that works in symbiotic connection with the hippocampus layer of the brain that activates the Bathari gland, right? So we finna get into it today. Now for a little more clarity on the Black Sun. See, the Black Sun is basically the personification of the cosmic serpent. And the reason I say that is because it creates an octave expansion that basically coincides with matter, and it creates these noble gases, as I was telling you before, is carbon, lithium, sulfur, helium, hydrogen, exon, radon, argon, and krypton. And those noble gases creates a body integration, and that body integration creates the dematerialization of the cosmic energy grid system in the form of magnetism. So that basically creates a grid pulsation that is activated by way of the serpent movement, because the black sun inside the planet moves like a serpent because it coincides with the energy of Ophiuchus, which is the 13th astrology sign, right? So it's not a coincidence that everything that's taking place right now is going to be the precursor to the year of 2025, which is the year of the serpent. The year of the cosmic serpent is the year of the energy of the black sun, because the black sun moves like a serpent. It's the serpentine energy that raises up the Kundalini spirit of planet Earth, that activates the chakra points of planet Earth, right? So what you're looking at right now is these energies is coincide with the fact that when you read the Emerald Tablets, we live in cycles within cycles, as above, so below. So you have the magnetism that is applicated by the force and the motion from a centrifugal divergence that is amalgamated with a positive electrical frequency acceleration that amalgamates with the centripetal convergence. That's when you get your 0 point energy. 0 point energy is acclimated to the heart chakra, right? Which is the emerald energy. So it's not a coincidence that when you look at the emerald energy of the emerald tablets, it's the same color spectrum as the heart chakra, because the heart chakra is a representation of the dielectric convergent fields that operates the planet from a place of 0 point energy, right? Meaning that you have to have the mental and the heart. You have to have the mental and the emotional energy in balance in order to reverse the polarity of the planet. Because not only by way of the doctrine of signatures, the black sun is inside the planet, but the black sun is also inside you by way of the activation of consciousness when you have these energies amalgamated from as above, so below. When you look at the cosmic energy vortex, right? So now, one thing you got to understand is that when you understand the metaphysical science of the Kundalini spirit, you see the three coils. The three coils is basically the symbology of the 3, 6, and the 9, which is the keys to the universe. And as I was telling you before, the serpent bearer of planet Earth that extracts an amalgamation of neutrinos, that basically creates the dematerialization of the magnetosphere and the ionosphere at the same time by way of the ionized particles that's basically being eradicated by these energies from the Kundalini spirit, right? So the keys to the universe, the three coils, 3, 6, and 9. So when you're looking at the 3, 6, and the 9, right? Let me blow this up for you. When you're looking at the 3, 6, and the 9, that is basically in alignment with the magic square. Creation and destruction, square in a circle. As I was telling you before, just like on Brother Rich's channel, you're going to have the 4 gas giant planets creating an amalgamation of gamma radiation that's extracting to the planet, and it's going to upgrade the planet in an evolutionary state in the form of destruction, because planet Earth is a feminine planet, so it has to go through a birthing process to get back into its original state. There's 9 months of a woman's birthing cycle. 9 is the epitome of destruction or creation when it's activated by a form of gamma radiation, right? Now, I showed you this before in one of my transmissions. It says that the Northern Lights forecast aurora may be visible in the United States for 2 years, scientists say. Now, what you see in the background is an emerald energy of the emerald tablets of Thoth. So the emerald energy is an extraction process of gamma radiation that's hitting the planet that is being projected by the 4 gas giant planets of Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune, and Uranus, right? And these 4 energies is going to create this, this energy vortex to the planet to where it's going to upgrade everything, right? It's going to upgrade everything mentally, physically, and spiritually. So, like I said, this is all coincides with the Great Awakening process. It all coincides with the magnetic pole shift. Because the black sun is the fingerprint of the universe, the fingerprint of God, meaning that it's basically the primordial source of existence on the planet. Because the activation of the black sun is going to put us in a precursor in the energy of the 7-year tribulation period, right? So all these things that basically came to pass from the year of 2018 to the year of 2024 were basically warning signs. Now, when you go to the year of 2025, which is the year of the serpent, 9 year, 9 is equated to completion. In solar cycle 25, 2 plus 5 equals 7. So you got the 7 year tribulation during this time period in the year of 2025. We in that time period right now. This is the time to get very serious about everything that's taking place on the planet, because if you haven't awoken to the afflictions and the Piscean age of darkness and the illusions that was propagated by that energy, if you haven't woken up from that sleep spell, it's going to wake your ass up in the year 2025. I'll tell you that much. Because one thing you got to understand is that the black sun is basically going to eradicate your whole eugenic system that was propagated by patriarchy, and is going to eradicate social Darwinism, right? Because the black sun is basically the epitome of the great purification process, which is extracted by the laws of Mayat, right? Because Mayat was Tahuti's or Thoth's wife, which is basically equated to supreme balancement, equilibrium. Equilibrium in a form of a reset, 0 point energy, right? So this is why you got to understand that everything is esoterically connected, because the black sun is actually Tahuti, and Tahuti is actually the black horse, and the black horse is the black sun. So this is why you see the scales of justice being balanced when you look at the dark horse, right? So it's not a coincidence that we in the scales of justice in Libra. So this is the time to where everything has to be balanced in order to understand everything intuitively that's going to be taking place in the near future as we segue into the year of 2025. So now, one thing you got to understand is that you have, all these anomalies and these celestial phenomena that's taking place. So from the lunar eclipse that took place on 9/18, and then you had the solar eclipse that took place on October 2nd. That is basically 14 days apart. Now, this is esoterically connected to biblical prophecy that is also acclimated to the Kemetic spirituality. Because when you go to the number 14 is a form of resurrection. Now that's equated to the Kemetic god of Osiris, who was cut up into 14 parts. So the resurrection process happened by way of the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse that cultivated energy of balancement on the planet. So everything is getting balanced right now to where the scales of justice are going to have to tip over in the year of 2025, right? Because we in that year of completion. Everything has to go through a restoration process, a supplication process. Now, the black sun is actually going to activate the zodiac wheel in the 13th zodiac sign, which is the energy of Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, because the black sun is the personification of the serpentine energy of the cosmic serpent in the year 2025 that's basically going to pierce the veil, meaning that it's going to cause an extraction process to where it's going to eradicate some parts of the cosmic energy grid system that is acclimated to the cosmic clock that's connected to the precessional circle of the equinox. So one thing you got to understand about, everything that takes place on an esoteric level, when it comes to the socio-political aspect of civics and law, everything works in tandem with the whole zodiac wheel. Because when you look at the great seal of the dollar bill, it basically shows you a lunar solar calendar that operates on a 13 moon cycle. So this is why you got 13 steps on the pyramid. Then it's also acclimated to the 13, which is a matriarchal number. Then you got 13 stars on the flag. So all this stuff is acclimated to the energy of Ophiuchus, which is the 13th sign, which is basically the epitome of the restoration of the matriarch in the year of 2025, right? So this is why you're having so much desolation and calamity on the planet. We're going to get into that as we segue through the presentation. Now, I don't want to go too far because I'm pretty sure I got a video to show you guys. Let me make sure I ain't going too deep into the presentation, because sometimes I get to talking too much. But yeah, we got a lot of people in the chat right now. Share this video, get the video out there. And if you, like I said, if you new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. It's all about getting the edification out there and beating the algorithm, because certain information has to get to certain people, because certain information is going to save people's lives, because a lot of people don't understand what time that we live in right now. They don't understand that we're going into the 7-year tribulation. They don't understand that all these calamities is going to happen. They have to understand that they have to become more resourceful in the name of self-preservation, in order to to save themselves in the Great Awakening process. Now, when we in solar cycle 25, that is basically the apex of a certain energy. Now, one thing you got to understand is that, as I was telling you guys before, the year of the snake is the year of the cosmic serpent, and that is in 2025. But the last time we was in the year of the snake, the energy, the cosmic serpent, it was in 1929. That's when the stock market crashed. So this is why you having so many, afflictions within the financial infrastructure of the banking system. The Bank of America suffers outage as tens of thousands of users report struggling to get cash from the ATM or check online accounts. The more you have the activation of this black sun, because these energies is being extracted from the star Polaris that operates on cymatic frequencies of light, that gives off a transducive energy to the sun simulator and the moon simulator, and it basically collaborates with the black sun. The black sun gives off a primordial energy that basically eradicates everything that's connected to the ionization particles of the subatomic particle energy of the energy extraction matrix, meaning that it has the ability to manipulate everything in third density. So that coincides with the whole economic system, the political system, the financial infrastructure. You're going to see a lot of these things that's basically going to glitch in the matrix, and it's all being caused by the cosmic serpent of the black sun, the energy of Ophiuchus of the zodiac wheel. So you're going to see, in my opinion, we can, segue into a economic crash in the year of 2025, because the last time we had an economic crash in the Great Depression was in 1929, and that was in the year of the snake, the year of the cosmic serpent. We in that time right now. We going into that time. So that's why it's imperative, to get gold, get silver, galvanize your resources. Because one thing you got to understand is that when it comes to Big Brother, the enemy doesn't really change. They just basically create this pseudo concept of evolution that's acclimated to their system. So we went from a centralized government to a trust to a financial blockchain, the currency, the big data, to cost that is connected to the CBDC, because you having the eradication process of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has lost its power because it was connected to the 3 city states, as I was telling you in my last transmission, right? So this is another way to basically create a totalitarian technocracy under a form of patriarchy. Now, so this is why it's imperative to understand everything all around you. So it tells you in this publication by the Washington Post that something big is up. Something big is coming. And then you got this guy right here who is a whistleblower. He says FBI whistleblower urges Americans to vote, arm themselves, stock up for 3 months of food, and pray. I don't know about the voting, but you must stock up. Now, this coincides with a video that I seen online that came across my desk. Because one thing you got to understand is that you got to understand the esoteric symbolism that coincides with their secret societies. Because if you don't understand their symbolism, you're not going to understand what time it is on the planet Earth at this moment of time. You're not going to understand that we in that 7-year tribulation period. Now, this video is going to show you a guy doing this thing called mewing, but the mechanics of the symbolism started from Scottish Rite Freemasonry symbolism. And it's basically signifying the number 3, meaning that we got 3 months left. I'm going to show you this video. Picture to the guy in the background. He's going to do something with a silence, and he's going to do something like that. That is basically the signification in the Scottish Rite Freemasonry for the number 3. Just like the guy, the whistleblower, said that we have 3 months for 3 months. I'm going to show you. I'm going to play the video. That's all Freemasonic symbolism. Freemasonic symbolism. And that's not the only one. There's another video of an individual doing the same thing. This is esoteric Freemasonic symbolism telling you what time it is on the planet, because by way of universal law, they got to give you the truth. This is basically telling you that there's 3 months left. Get your shit together. We in that time period right now. Because all the conspiracies is basically coming to pass right now. See? It's not a coincidence that all this stuff is taking place while Donald Trump, who is a white hat, Scottish Rite Freemason, it's not a coincidence that all this stuff is taking place while he's doing his speeches. This is symbolism. It's just, it says stock up for 3 months of food, right? Pay attention to the signs for those who have eyes to see what's going on. Because in the year 2025, that's going to activate the seers. And they know that it's going to be an amalgamation of seers on the planet. I'm going to break that down as we get through the presentation. Now, it tells you right here in this publication that the United States military alert, all military forces worldwide are preparing to suspend all media, internet, phone, and TV services. Emergency services will stay active, but everything else is about to go dark. It's going to go dark by way of the energy extraction of the Black Sun that is basically crumbling Mystery Babylon, which is America, which is basically everything that's connected to westernized civilization. Now, after the 10 days of darkness, we will reconnect to a new quantum internet. The old systems of government, education, finance, health, and commerce will basically be gone. A new age is coming. And that new age is basically going to be facilitated by a new world order system that is only going to have a temporal power. It's not going to last very long. And it's not going to last all the way up into the year of 2030, because in the year of 2030, that's when the cosmic energy grid is going to zero out and the dome is going to crack open. That's when you're going to see the Elohim, these so-called Anunnaki, or these extraterrestrial beings that people have been talking about, because all this coincides with the Galactic Federation and things of that nature. I'll break that down in a different transmission, but this video is designated for the Black Sun and the energy consciousness of Melchizedek, who is Tahuti, who is Thoth. Now, during this time period, no internet, no ATM, and phones, only working for 911 calls. This is the global martial law we've been talking about, and it comes with a 10-day communication blackout. So do you remember when the congressmen, they got satellite cell phones, right? That happened in the year of 2022, I believe. They have satellite phones. All the congressmen, everybody in the political infrastructure, they got satellite phones for when the Black Sun eradicates this whole energy grid system, right? So it comes with a 10-day communication blackout, but here's the kicker. The emergency broadcast system will be activated worldwide, nonstop, 24/7. 80-hour documentaries exposing the dark secrets of the elite, fraud, corruption, and you know that word, and arrest that will play 3 times a day. So the truth will basically be unleashed, right? So, like I said, they got to tell us the truth. They're going to tell you the truth about the full disclosure of extraterrestrials, because this energy is being extracted by the Black Sun. Now, the black sun is actually the sign of Jonah. You break down the etymological roots of the word Jonah, you get dove. Dove represents ascension because the ascension process of the dove takes you to a different space and time by way of the black hole, which is the black sun. The black sun is a interstellar vortex portal that takes you from third density to fifth density. That was the last sign. So that solar eclipse that took place on April 8th in this year, that wasn't really a solar eclipse. That was basically the resurgence of the black sun to put an omen over certain geographical areas that was operating from a place of hedonistic activity. Now, when you're talking about the energy of the black sun has the ability to awaken all the pyramids on the planet that creates a positive electrical frequency that manipulates the ethers, right? So this time period, don't be surprised when you're going to have, wars and things of that nature, because, as I broke down in my last video with Conjure Queen, shout out to the Queen Conjure, in the last video, I broke down that the lunar eclipse, the annual lunar eclipse that took place on October 2nd, you take 10 plus 2 plus 24, you get 36. 3 plus 6 equals 9. So 9 is associated with Mars. Mars is equated to war. So don't be surprised during this time period from the year 2025, 26, 27, when you have these energies of the black sun, it can manipulate the energy, the emotional energy on the planet to where it can cause destruction and war, right? That is a Mars energy, right? So all this stuff is connected to, Iran. When you read some of this stuff, you got the sirens activated across Israel. United States has been warned of severe consequences, because we in that time right now. America has been judged. Nineveh shall be overthrown when you go to Jonah chapter 3, verse 4, right? So it's not a coincidence that Biden backs the unaliving of this individual. So this is, the omens that's going to be taking place by way of the black sun. It all coincides with biblical prophecy when you're talking about the eradication of the Canaanites, right? Who is the cursed seed. Destroying the Canaanites will prevent them from becoming a corrupting influence upon God's people who were called to holiness, because God's people are the Semitic people or the indigenous Negro in the geographical landmass of America, which is actually Egypt or Kemet, or Al-Maghrib al-Aqsa, which is North and South Exum, right? Now, as I was telling you before, these energies is going to eradicate the Canaanite system, because these solar flares is collaborating with the energies of the black sun. We had the biggest solar flare since 2017 erupt from the sun, and Earth is firing, and Earth is in the firing line. And these energies, these X9 colossal coronal mass ejections is supposed to be hitting the planet while you have the same time these hurricanes, and then you can't negate the fact that we got the second moon in our solar system. Like I said, you can call it Nibiru, you can call it Wormwood, you can call it the Great Destroyer, you can call it another quantum satellite that's creating weather modification. You can call it all kinds of things, but there's something in our solar system that's amplifying the solar radiation to extract these solar frequencies that collaborates with the black sun that would cause a Earth crust displacement with the neutrinos that is extracted by way of the black sun. So you got these X-class solar flares that's hitting the planet. These X-class solar flares that's hitting the planet, these coronal mass ejections is activating the black sun. That is basically going to activate the Kundalini spirit of the serpent bearer of the energy of Ophiuchus in the year of the cosmic serpent. So more earthquakes is going to come, right? Because in one of my transmissions, I told you that FEMA is preparing for the big one in the Cascadian subduction zone when you're talking about, the West Coast and California. And then you got the New Madrid fault line. This all coincides with the futuristic map of the United States in the year 2025. More earthquakes is going to come. I'm not trying to scare nobody, but this is all, documented by the CIA. I'm going to show you those publications as we get through the presentation. All this stuff has to come to pass because, like I said, it's too many energies on the planet. You got these colossal corona mass ejections, the biggest one since 2017. You're going to have Pluto in Aquarius on November 19th. You got the second moon in our atmosphere until November 25th. Then you have the four gas giant planets squaring a circle around planet Earth. Too much energy on the planet. That means that something has to happen. Pay attention to what's going on. As above, so below. Right? The law of polarity. Now, it's not a coincidence that St. Louis first responders work with the United States Army National Guard on lifelike earthquake drills, right? They're preparing for something, right? And you can almost see the ground move. The state of emergency declared in California as land movement threatens power lines, right? Get out, evacuate from California. I know you want to live there. You're having a good time. You love the palm trees, but you cannot negate reality. This is a reality. This is all documented by the CIA. They know the big event that's going to happen. Now, when you look at the sedimentary rock formation, when you have the energies of the black sun that is extracting neutrinos are basically Holy Ghost particles that manipulates the space-time continuum that puts you in a higher state of consciousness, because not only do we have a consciousness, the planet has a consciousness too, because it's a living organism. So since it's a living organism, this is where you get the transmutation process of the tectonic plates going and having an amalgamation of movement. And that's going to cause pressure, and it's going to cause force, and it's basically going to cause more earthquakes, right? So now when we get to the publication of the next cataclysm, this is a CIA documentation, right? You can get this online. Just type in pole shift CIA document. It's telling you about the next cataclysm, like the flood of Noah, like Adam and Eve's. This will too come to pass. CIA documentation, not a coincidence. So this is the table of contents. You got the next cataclysm, the great floods, the story, the event, Genesis, and you got the conclusion to what I'm talking about. Let me get some water for that real fast. So we finna get into it. Now, everything, like I said, esoterically is by way of universal law. They got to give you the truth. So it's basically giving you the whole blueprint of what's going to be taking place in California. In California, the mountains shake like ferns in a breeze. A mighty Pacific rears back and piles up into a mountain of water, and then 2 miles high, and then start to race eastward. Now, that coincides with the El Nino non-weather, because the El Nino weather is going to be extracted from the east going to the west. So that's going to cause an amalgamation of afflictions and many different calamities. And they said that the earthquakes will have a force of 1,000 armies. The wind attacks, ripping, shredding everything into a supersonic bombardment. The unbelievable mountain of the Pacific sea waters follow eastward, burying Los Angeles and San Francisco in the sand, basically. Now, let me see. And then within 3 hours of fantastic waterfall movements across the continent, burying the wind raft land 2 miles. Yeah, in a fraction of a day, all the vestiges of the civilization are gone. The great cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, and New York are basically nothing but legends. Barely a stone left where millions walked just a few hours before. So that means that if they said that millions of people just walked hours before, they're not going to tell you when the big event is going to be taking place. They're not going to tell you. They're going to tell you, oh, don't panic. And it's just going to happen just like in the movie 2012. It's imperative that people watch that movie in 2012 because when they tell you not to panic, that's when you should panic, right? All CIA documented. CIA documentation right in your face. And it's not only going to be connected to, the Western world. You got, North America, South America, Europe, West Africa, Eastern Siberia. All these landmasses are going to be eradicated, right? Because we in that pole shift. And this is going to happen by way of the new ice caps that begin to form in a new polar areas in Greenland and Antarctica. And that will cause a affliction in the waters. It's going to raise certain temperatures. So then you got Egypt emerges from the Mediterranean. And then once more, the earth has shifted into a 60-mile thick shell. The poles moving almost to the equator in a fraction of a day, right? Again, the atmosphere and oceans refusing to change direction with the earth shell and have wiped out almost all life. They telling you right in your face in the CIA documentation, right? Now, one thing you got to understand about hurricane season. Hurricane season is, hold on, let me show you. From June 1st all the way to November 30th. Now watch this. Now you have the second moon going to be in our solar system when you look at my cursor at the bottom until November 25th. So it's going to be more hurricanes. It's going to be more hurricanes, right? They got to tell you, they got to put the truth in your face. So you can say that these energies is being manipulated by weather modification frequencies, or you could say it's being manipulated by the moon that controls the tides of the planet, or you could say it's Nibiru. Don't nobody really know. It's all speculation. But by way of frame of reference, you got to add context to the situation and just go with the narrative that they put out because we are trying to understand what's going on. So we got the second moon, the quantum satellite, Nibiru, whatever you want to call it, in our solar system until November 25th, and hurricane season ends on November 30th. So the planet has to balance itself out. So we're going to see more hurricanes. We got Hurricane Milton coming up. So it's not a coincidence that the Homeland Security Secretary shares FEMA doesn't have enough funding to last through the hurricane season, which is BS, right? That's all BS, all Marlicky. Because if you got enough money for all that, if you got enough money, to give 24 million, 11 million to Israel, you got all this money going to these other, countries, and you mean to tell me that you can only give $750 to the FEMA, victims, the ones that that was connected to Hurricane Helen, the victims of it. So, like I said, you got to see beyond the veil. Everything, like they playing semantics with the masses. They playing semantics, all technology. So what you're looking at right here is Hurricane Milton, right? Hurricane Milton is basically, they basically said it's going to be a Category 5 hurricane. So I'm going to show you this video because by way of the energy that's being extracted by the Black Sun, they got to give you the truth, right? Because the Black Sun pierces the veil. Now pay attention to this video. In this video, it basically tells you before it even hits that Hurricane Milton is going to be a Category 4 or 5.
Alexa, what kind of hurricane was Hurricane Milton?
From Fandom.com. Hurricane Milton was an extremely powerful Category 5 hurricane that caused widespread damage across its path in October 2024.
I'm gonna play it again for the people who didn't hear it. It's telling you AI technology is connected to the quantum world and the simulation at the same time, because the archonic forces who control the energy extraction matrix have an ability to operate under oscillating signals to extract the energy by way of electrical devices and become a form of a sentient being by giving you the truth. So, like I said, AI technology is being controlled by archonic spirits who's giving you the truth in reality by way of the technology.
Alexa, what kind of hurricane was Hurricane Milton?
From fandom.com. Hurricane Milton was an extremely powerful Category 5 hurricane that caused widespread damage across its path in October 2024.
Like I said, this is where we have to basically delineate, because we can say that these weather modification frequencies is being extracted, happening by way of modification from the government, or like I said, by way of essence, and by way of divine intervention, and by way of karmic retribution. You can also say that it's the energy of the black sun that's causing these weather frequencies to basically manipulate and eradicate everything in the Western world. Because one thing you got to understand about the word Milton, pay attention to this right here. Now, Milton was a slave owner in Marina Jackson County, Florida in 1846. So this is the Milton plantation where he had slaves. So we all know that the tornadoes go through the Trail of Tears and the hurricanes go through the slave states. So Hurricane Milton is one of those things where, like I said, we have to decipher it. You know what I'm saying? We got to use our discernment. So is this something that's basically divine that's taking place because the colonization and the degradation, economic disenfranchisement that was amplified by slaveholders? Is this all prophetic? Because one thing you got to understand is that the colossal coronal mass ejections that's being extracted from the sun, it collaborates with planet Earth. So these solar flares is hitting the planet, it activates the black sun. So the ancient souls of the ancestors that died during the times of slavery, they're actually coming back to the planet to awaken the planet and awaken the 144,000, right? Which is a form of consciousness that's acclimated to the spirit of Melchizedek, who is Tahuti, who is Thoth, the olfactory nerve. So these energies that's coming in is activating the black sun, and it's activating the black sun within you because your ancestors live within you, because they was basically eradicated by slaveholders like John Milton. So it's not a coincidence that they have a hurricane called Hurricane Milton and the geographical landmass of Florida. But there's a science behind it. You know what I'm saying? It depends on how you look at it. You could say it's basically being weather modification, but everything is not, the government, these oligarchs don't have that much power. Sometimes it's our ancestors revitalizing the infrastructure of of the patriarchal energy that was controlled by the slaveholders. So you got Hurricane Milton, and this is a Milton plantation in Florida, right? This is a Milton plantation. These are the slaves that was on Milton plantation, right? This is the slave holder, John Milton. There's a hurricane called Hurricane Milton, right? Not a coincidence. So, let me see. I think I got a video that coincides with that. Nope, I don't. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, man. Get this video out there, because we have to understand everything esoterically, because everything's right in front of your face. All the physical destruction is transmuted from the spiritual energy that's transmuted from the cosmos, right? That's where the physical destruction is at. They all knew about the energy of the black sun when you study the transgressive neoclassical art. This is inside one of the Vatican museums in Vatican City. They know about the black sun. This is, a lot of people say, oh, that's a solar eclipse. No, this is the black sun, right? Now, we're going to get into the esoteric aspects of it because it all coincides with the neurological upgrades on the planet. Because as I was telling you before, when you have the trilateral connection of the triangulation process of the hypothalamus gland, the pituitary gland, and the pineal gland, it activates the olfactory nerve. The olfactory nerve is on the right side of the brain, which is activated by the 90% of the neurological capacity that you haven't activated yet, which is basically the embodiment of the Christ consciousness, because the olfactory nerve works in conjunction with the hypothalamus gland that is linked to the hippocampus layer of the brain, which activates the Bathari gland. The Bathari gland, when you break down the etymological roots of the word bara, it means a different space and time, right? Because the black sun within you, the pineal gland, is going to take you to a different space and time when the black sun is activated by these non-ether frequencies, these gamma radiations, that's basically reversing the polarity of patriarchy on the planet. So the Bathari gland is where you get your four higher senses from. That is your Christ consciousness. That is your spirit of Melchizedek. That is Tahuti, that is Thoth within you by balancing the heart chakra and your crown chakra at the same time, because that is basically the epitome of the ascension process, right? So that's not a coincidence. When you go to Jonah chapter 3, verse 4, it says Nineveh shall be overthrown. Jonah, when you break down the etymology, Jonah means dove. Dove represents the ascension of the mind. The ascension of the mind by the activation of the Christ consciousness, who is Tahuti, who is Melchizedek. Melchizedek is basically Metatron. Metatron is Michael or Michael, Tahuti, Thoth. These are basically the same entities, but you got to understand the mythology, right? Now, for the esoteric aspects of it. Now, it tells you right here, Thoth was also the tongue, because the tongue is a wand, because the tongue has an octave vibration by speaking truth into existence to reverse a polarity of patriarchy that basically subjugated the matriarch. Because as I was telling you before, the serpent bearer, which is also the sword of the tongue, is acclimated to the 13th sign of astrology, which is the energy of Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. The serpent bearer is the Kundalini awakening when you speak things into existence with the activation of the tongue or the tonal languages, the octave frequencies that manipulates the space-time continuum, because it's activating the ethers that basically dematerializes the subatomic particles of the photon-like spectrum. He framed the laws by which heaven, earth, and all heavenly bodies maintain ordered the courses of the sun, moon, and the stars. He invented drawing, design, arts, and mathematics. So one thing you got to understand is that the universe is mathematical, but you can manipulate and become the glitch in the matrix by way of the cosmic vibration that is extracted from the tongue. So if you speak in truth because you know things and you know the knowledge, right? You are Tahuti. You are Thoth, right? Because you remember certain things that took place in the past, and you know that, all this stuff has to come to pass because it's all based on prophetic divination. So one thing you got to understand about these gamma radiations, these frequencies that's coming in, these four gas giants, that is intrinsic ether that's hitting the planet. So ether at its highest form is the color green. The color green is acclimated to the heart chakra. So this is why, like I said, on the scales of Mayat is Tahuti's husband. I mean, that's Tahuti's, Tahuti and Mayat were basically married. When you look at the scales of Mayat, it's acclimated to the heart chakra. They don't weigh the heart. They weigh the heart on the scales of Mayat, not the brain, because the heart chakra is the color spectrum of green, and you activate yourself by way of the gamma radiation frequencies that's hitting the planet, right? So when you look at this sigil right here, that is a hexa alpha symbol, which is basically the unification of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, which also represents the fact that it's as above, so below. So the energies that's coming in is actually a microcosm of the macrocosm. Now, pay attention to the sigil system right here. When you looked at the hexa alpha symbol or the seal of Solomon, which is basically the soul of man, or Solomon's temple, which is basically the soul of man, which means is the energetic frequency of the soul that is activated by the spirit of Melchizedek, who was Tahuti or Thoth. So now when you look at the sigil, when you look at my cursor right here, when you have the torus field of the vector equilibrium has a spiraling frequency, right? That creates a form of the magnetic poles amalgamating together that creates the aurora borealis that is extracted by way of the black sun. So that's why I said we are microcosm of the macrocosm. We are the black sun, and we are Tahuti. We are Thoth. We are that Christ consciousness, right? We are living in that time right now. So that's why it's not a coincidence that we're going into the 7-year tribulation. 7. When you look at the number 7, when you look at Hinduism, Shiva is the outer manifestation of Krishna. Shiva means 7. Solar cycle 25, 2 plus 5 equals 7. Solar cycle 25 in the year 2025, 7. So this is the year of the Christ consciousness. So it's not a coincidence, as I was telling you before, the aurora borealis is going to be in our atmosphere for the next 2 years. Let me find it. Yep, here we go. Northern Lights forecast, aurora may be visible to the United States for at least 2 years. That's gamma radiation. That's emerald energy. That's what you see is cosmic gamma radiation. That's ether. That's the spirit of Melchizedek hitting the planet. That's activating the black sun because it operates on cymatic frequencies of light that collaborates with the soul of man, Solomon's temple, the sigil of Tahuti, Thoth. I hope y'all understanding this right now. You know what I'm saying? Because it's activated by supreme balancement, because you're not going to get those energies unless you balance at the heart chakra, right? Same thing that takes place with the black horse. The black horse is the scales of justice. When you activate those energies, the scales of justice is going to be tipped over because we already won the war. Right? So these gamma radiation, these frequencies, you got all these frequencies that's hitting the planet. So as above, so below. All this energy is being extracted by the black sun that's activating the spirit of Melchizedek by way of cymatic frequencies of light that creates a interstellar vortex portal of a vector equilibrium balancement, which is equated to God. You cannot become a God unless you're balanced mentally and emotionally, right? So with all these new energies coming in, you're going to have more, things that's going to be taking place when you're talking about another lockdown. Because one thing you got to understand, if your neurological faculties is not in order, if you haven't done your shadow work, it's going to make you mentally crazy, right? These new energies is hitting the planet that's being activated by the black sun, the star Polaris. You got the 4 gas giant planets. You got 2 moons. You got Pluto in Aquarius. All these energies has the ability to cause a neurological misfire to NPCs, right? So this is why, during the time of the year 2025, they're going to try to they're going to try to destabilize the awakening process. The reason that is because they know that we're going to have a lot of seers, which is why they're going to create another implication, physical implication, spiritual implication called the seers virus, right? And it's basically a nomenclature title for the severe intravenous epidemic respiratory syndrome, right? And the reason that is because this is where they got to hit you with another form of draconian juice to basically subjugate the energy so you don't tap into the Christ consciousness, to where you don't tap into the right knowledges, right? To where you don't tap into the right knowledge. So all this stuff is taking place now. So it's not a coincidence that The Simpsons unexpectedly airs its series finale, leaving the fans perplexed. That's because the simulation is over, because a lot of these so-called prophecies of The Simpsons was basically acclimated to the simulation, and it was acclimated to everything as far as like that they put in television and cartoons. So we already broke this down. Stay off the airplanes, right? Because these new energies is coming in, they're going to manipulate the airplanes. I almost tell you on every transmission, stay off the airplanes. Now, for those coming in, I'm gonna get back to this because I got to tell you about this event on October 13th. I'm gonna be in Atlanta, Georgia. It's at the Dick Gregory anniversary, sponsored by King Simon Productions. And I'm gonna be if you want to meet me, I'm gonna be in Atlanta on October 13th. Screenshot this publication, and Red and Blue Pair is gonna be there. Me, Brother Rich, King Simon, Baba Ashwa Kwesi, all these, Dr. B Serious is gonna be there. We all gonna be in the building on October 13th. So, and I believe you can pull up there if you haven't purchased a ticket. I think you can purchase it, at the door, I believe. So come to the event. I'm going to be there. If you want to meet me there, what I'm saying, we can basically politic, and, share information and network. So screenshot this, if you will. And I got another video to show you guys. Now, one thing you got to understand about the negative extraction of, when you understand the negative extraction of the fear aspect, fear basically subjugates the awakening process. So whatever that's taking place that's being amplified by the shadow government, don't fall for the tricknology and the semantics. Don't be in fear. And the reason I say that is because fear basically is going to put an encryption over your neurological faculties to where you don't have the ability to tap into the spirit of Melchizedek. So where you don't tap into the spirit of Thoth Tahuti, right? Your Christ consciousness, right knowledge. That is going to subjugate the energy. So everything that you see that's taking place, that's being activated by, the deep state, this is a form of the fact that they basically trying to destabilize everything. The reason they're trying to destabilize everything because they're trying to get order out of chaos. So this is basically the epitome of what I'm talking about. Order out of chaos.
It's a job to say the least. So to set the stage here, let me just explain what these numbers mean. ICE has something called a non-detained docket. Essentially what that is it means migrants who were encountered by DHS but are no longer in federal custody. So who's on this non-detained docket? It's illegal immigrants who were caught and released at the border, released with the court date years away. They're in immigration proceedings, combined with illegal immigrants who have already been ordered deported from the country by a judge but are still here roaming the country. So keep that in mind, this non-detained docket. According to a letter that the acting director of ICE just sent to Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez, on ICE's non-detained docket, they're currently tracking 425,000 non-citizens who have been convicted of a crime. Of that number, over 13,000 non-citizens have convictions for homicide and are on the non-detained docket, meaning they're roaming the country right now. On top of that, there are another 15,811 non-citizens convicted of sexual assault who are roaming the country right now on ICE's non-detained docket. It doesn't stop there. Those are convictions. The ICE director also says there are currently just under 1,900 non-citizens on the non-detained docket who have pending homicide charges who are roaming the country, and another 4,250 non-citizens who have pending sexual assault charges who are roaming the country on the non-detained docket. So people's eyes might be glazing over right now with all the numbers we just threw at you. Just to put it in a nutshell right here, what we've learned from the acting ICE director via this letter to Congressman Tony Gonzalez is right now there are over 13,000 illegal aliens convicted of homicide who are roaming the United States right now. There are another 15,811 illegal aliens roaming the country right now who have been convicted of sexual assault. And there are even more who are facing charges for homicide and charges for sexual assault. So this just goes to show, guys, the non-detained docket has exploded under the Biden administration to over, I believe it's 7.3 million. They're anticipating it could hit 8 million by the end of the year. But looking at the numbers on this letter right here, there are currently over 600,000 non-citizens on ICE's non-detained docket who are either convicted, or 600,000 non-citizens on this non-detained docket who are roaming the country right now. Of that, 425,000 have already been convicted of crimes. 222,000 are pending crimes. And again, the most serious crimes we just told you about, over 13,000 convicted of homicide, over 15,000 convicted of sexual assault. And honestly, that is not a surprise to hear, given these horrible headlines we keep seeing popping up in multiple parts of the country almost every day now of a horrible sexual assault or a murder or another violent felony committed by an illegal alien who is often caught and released from custody. And the jaw dropper here too, guys, is all these numbers we just rattled off, they don't even account for the nearly 2 million gotaways who have crossed our border under the Biden administration. Those almost 2 million gotaways, they were never encountered by DHS. They snuck in. They were never caught by Border Patrol. They were never encountered by ICE. There's no record of them. So they have nothing to do with the numbers I just rattled off to you. These are just the numbers of people that ICE has already encountered, that Border Patrol has encountered, that DHS knows who they are. And we just saw those horrible stories in Nantucket the other day. ICE ran a week-long operation in Nantucket, and in a single operation.
So we in that time right now. They're going to hit you with Black Swan event after Black Swan event. They're going to try to hit you with every type of affliction that's going to destabilize the awakening process. Fear is basically going to put an encryption over your neurological faculties to where you don't tap into those 4 higher senses that's connected to your hippocampus layer of the brain, right? That is activated by way of the Bathory gland. So it's gonna stop you from tapping into the Christ consciousness, the spirit of Melchizedek, Tahuti, Thoth. That is your true Lord of the Bible when you understand everything esoterically. For those who don't understand that, right? Now, for those coming in, like I said, man, we got, a lot of people in the building, so get this video out there, share it. I'm going to give a brief synopsis about everything that I basically took, that I talked about tonight. And I get 60% of the people who watch this channel is not subscribed. So subscribe to the channel, quit being weird, quit being a monitoring spirit, and to subscribe to the channel. Because we all, we all are part of this conscious, this cosmic convergence and this awakening period. Now, as I was telling you before, the black sun is basically extracting an energy that's going to cause a unity consciousness by way of right knowledge that activates the 144,000, 1 + 4 + 4 = 9 ether. These 9 ether energies operates on fractions of light that operates the right side of the brain, which is connected to the olfactory nerve, because the etheric network of the black sun is an amalgamated with the plasmic energy vortex of the ethers, which is the power supply that manipulates the space-time continuum. And the reason I say that is because it's in alignment with the Ursa Major star constellation, because it's basically the source of the God consciousness on the planet that's going to amplify certain, cataclysms on the planet. When you have, earth crust displacement, when you have the movement of seismic activity because of the tectonic plates, all this stuff is happening because of the black sun. Because the black sun is basically the serpent bearer. The serpent bearer is acclimated to the zodiac wheel of the 13th sign of the energy of Ophiuchus that extracts an amalgamation of octave expansion matter of the 9 noble gases. So these 9 noble gases eradicates the cosmic clock energy grid system, which is basically the Pleiadian light lock that was created by the Pleiadians in the Majestic 12, which is basically the Van Allen belt. That Van Allen belt is being eradicated by the 9 noble gases that will basically create a grid pulsation. That grid pulsation is being activated by the serpent inside the planet, which is the black sun. The black sun moves like a serpent. That is basically the epitome of the conscious awakening, when you have the centripetal convergence and the centrifugal divergence that will create a capillary fields of consciousness that has a positive electrical frequency that zeroes out everything in the form of a great reset by going from 0 point energy that is extracted by the black sun, because the black sun is the Kundalini spirit that represents the 3 sinks of the 9, which is basically the keys of the universe, the unlocking of the genetical codes, the unlocking of the suprachiasmatic nucleus of the neurological clock and the cosmic clock. So these energies is coming in. It was going to cause destruction. It's going to be amplified by the 4 gas giant planets. That's going to cause the aurora borealis to be over our atmosphere for the next 2 years. So what you see is that's gamma radiation. All gamma radiation is basically the personification of ether. That is the spirit of Melchizedek, the spirit of your ancestors coming down and collaborating with your body to upgrade your physiology and your neurological capacity, right? Because the black sun is the fingerprint of the universe, the fingerprint of God. So we in that 7-year tribulation period. This is the time of the awakening of the chosen ones, right? So that's just a brief synopsis right there. You can go back and watch the video. That's just a brief synopsis, because these energies is coming in, the spirit of Melchizedek, that is basically going to activate the 144,000, right? Because it's going to activate the 144,000. The reason I say that is because, when it comes to, the chosen ones, when it comes to the chosen ones, we was the odd ones, but now we finna make shit even in the Great Awakening period. We was counted out. We was castigated. We was scrutinized. You got these energies that's coming in, is going to upgrade your physiology. When it upgrades your physiology, that's when you're going to tap into the Christ consciousness. That's the spirit of Melchizedek that's going to activate the black sun within you. All this stuff is basically allegorical, right? Because we are microcosm of the macrocosm. Just like you have a black sun inside the planet, there's a black sun within you. And that black sun is the Kundalini spirit that's going to awaken in the year of 2025, which is the year of the cosmic serpent and the year of the 13th sign of the energy of Ophiuchus, of the zodiac wheel. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, get this video out there. Thanks for watching this video.
10, 14.
We were put